Deep conversations with the right people are priceless, and ideas are formed in the crucible of authentic, connected, and sometimes controversial conversations. No ideas are off the table because why would they be? Join us on Inquisitive Souls as we lead with curiosity, empathy, and a massive heaping of juvenile humor. Join us on this learning journey. I have no idea if it still counts as a conversation if you're talking to yourself, but I'm sitting in my hotel room in Cleveland, and I just published a couple of episodes, but I've got more shit on my mind. So I am going to fucking make you, well, I can't make you listen to it, but I'm going to talk about it because I think it's important. So I've been really thinking a lot about the stories. Thinking a lot about how we, words create our worlds, and we live in the world that our conversations create. And I've been thinking a lot about how the stories we tell ourselves about the past and how liberating rewriting them can be. And it's definitely possible because, oh God, did you hear that sound? That was like fingernails on a chalkboard. I just moved this metal Kleenex box holder. Anyways, I'm in a fancy hotel. Fancy enough that it has a metal Kleenex box holder. And so I'll use an example from my own life to illustrate what I'm talking about, because I think rethinking how, intentionally rethinking about how we look at the past and doing it through the lens of empathy and compassion can be really not only educational, but freeing, man, because fuck me. I have talked to so many people who are adults. I'm 45, like my age, younger, older, whatever, that are walking around with just so much anger and resentment about, towards their parents, for example, about the shit they did to them when they were a kid. Now, first of all, I'm not trying to minimize in any way the horrible fucking shit that's happened to some people. Like, obviously, I've talked to many of them. I want to put that out there right now. And I also think, though, that ultimately we need to make a choice about the life that we want to live. So let me use this example from my own personal life to illustrate what I'm talking about. So my grandmother was pretty mean to my mom. Like, I don't think she was physically abusive, but she was really belittling, really criticized her all the time, made fun of her, called her dumb. My mom struggled in school. I think she was dropped when she was very little by the doctor, or really when she was born. Anyway, she was blind till she was 2. And then really her eyesight, I think she's legally blind. I should know this. I know she's legally blind in one eye. Her eyesight's not very good at all. It never has been. So, like, really poor. So, she never fitted in school. She was bullied and all those things. And then combined that with kind of the way my grandmother treated her, set my mom up for, this is the story anyways, set my mom up for a lifetime of low self-esteem that at 69 years old, to some degree still plagues her. And so the story I used to tell myself about that was basically my grandmother was a fucking bitch, and she is responsible for the harm she did to my mother. So, however, that's such a simplistic way of looking at that story, because the obvious question comes up, like, what the fuck happened to my grandmother? And so if you look at the story, like, and I don't have all the details, but the story as I know it, like, my grandmother was born in like 1920 in northern Canada on a native reserve. Her mother died when she was like 8 or something like that. I think she got a grade 4 education. I suspect there was very hard time, hard upbringing. I can only imagine there was abuse of various kinds. It was really tough, right? And like something I can't even possibly relate to, which is actually kind of the point of this story. So if you think about that, she then, got married, had kids, raised kids, and despite all its imperfections, gave my mother a hell of a lot better of an upbringing than she ever had. Like, not even in the same universe. Now, again, it's not trying to minimize the things that happened and things that were said and all that kind of stuff. But my mom's upbringing was in a different universe of better than my grandmother's upbringing. So what does my mom do? So she takes her upbringing, and builds on it. And she gives me and my brother a better upbringing than she had. Like, she never put us down or anything like that. I mean, she probably did when we were teenagers, but oh my God, did we ever deserve it? And now I've taken what she's given me, and I'm attempting to give my kids a better upbringing, like, to build on it. I don't want to, like, I guess better is the word, but to continuously improve, to give my kids, teach them everything I know so they can have a better upbringing than the one I had. And then hopefully they'll do the same, and continuing. And so when you think about it that way, the sort of deficit way of thinking about it was, like I said at the beginning, my grandmother's a bitch, and the shit she did to my mom basically gave her shitty self-esteem issues for her whole life. But if you think about it, if you look at the story as I just told it, really what has actually happened is that every generation has played a part, or is a key component or key actor, let's say, in this upward trajectory. Like, think about that. The trajectory is up. Every subsequent generation is getting a better, more emotionally, no, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to go into details, but getting a better upbringing than the one that came before that. And that's, like, when you stop and think about that, that's pretty fucking cool, because I can look around me. I'm sure this happens in, some miraculous cases, but you don't go from being born in the 1920, when your mom died when you were 8 in Northern Canada, grade 4 education. You don't go, and whatever abuse happened, you don't go from that to, like, upper middle class, white picket fence suburbia. And that personally would fucking hate that, but that's, kind of our little traditional way of describing success. But regardless, you don't go from her upbringing to that in one generation. How would that even be possible? Like, I'm sure people have done it from time to time, but my God, I mean, so what can you really ask of your parents? Like, I could look back at my parents and say, oh, look at all the stuff they didn't give me. Like, for example, my dad certainly didn't teach me about human emotions and all that stuff. You know why? It's not because he's emotionally fucking retarded. It's because he grew up in rural Canada in the 1950s in a family where his dad was gone to World War II for 6 years, probably came back with PTSD, fell off a roof, broke his back, was very physically abusive. They were absolutely destitute. Every boy quit school to work on the farm. And so what the gift that my dad gave me was he not one time ever hit me, not even a threat of it. And so he stopped that cycle right there. How many generations had that cycle gone on? I have no idea, but I suspect many. And so, so did I need all these emotional tools from him? How the fuck would he have even had those? Like that, that's what we've talked about this, So he gave me the absolutely massive gift of physical safety and psychological safety too, knowing that I wasn't going to be put down, or that I was going to be encouraged and supported, and that all they really wanted me to do was try. Like, think about that. That is super, super empowering for a kid. I didn't realize it at the time, but so not only did he, like, that's what he gave me. So I took that and I built on it. And now I'm doing a podcast in my hotel room in Cleveland, but you get my point. So when I look at my mom's situation, like, I can put not really, but because I didn't live through it, but I can certainly try to put myself in my grandmother's shoes and, have and empathize with her. And have compassion for the upbringing that she had and the challenges she had, and feel for her because her mom died when she was 8 and she never got a chance to have a mom. I can feel those things. And I can forgive. Not that it's really mine to forgive, but it's just empathy and compassion. And it doesn't excuse what she did, like, by putting my mom down or whatever, all the details, it doesn't really matter. And it, but it just puts it into some context. And when I think about her now, I think about her in a much different way, in a much lighter way. And I'm going to say with gratitude instead of contempt, because the gratitude I feel is that she took such a massive leap forward from where she came from. That's pretty special. And, it's pretty heroic if you ask me. So I look back at my grandma and I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for coming as far as you did. And thank you for raising a daughter who then took what you gave her and built upon that. And that's kind of a big deal. So, and I think there's a really significant opportunity for most of us to rethink to reconsider how we think about the past and what role thinking about it that way, like how that is serving us. Because if you're walking around bitter and fucking angry and unforgiving, the only one that's fucking up is yourself. That's it, man. And that kind of, what's that saying? Anger or resentment or whatever is like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die. Fuck that. It's time to live. So reconsider those stories. You have the power to change how you think about them. And if you are like me and your generation is part of an upward trajectory, then celebrate that and fucking do everything you can to keep it going. See you next time.